What's happening, guys? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. This is the Sunday video for October 17th and the week ahead. It shouldn't be a long one because I'm just going to get right into the ILAG discussion after we do a couple housekeeping things. One, Daniel Manahan and Zarlos94. You've got the t-shirts for this week. Email me, webmaster@investorsunderground.com. Couple things about the market. You know, as far as preparation right now, it's not as important to, kind of come into the market and have, these are the exact trades that I'm going to take and, I'm prepared. We don't know if the market's going to gap down 500 points or gap up 500 points. And, right now there's just so much volume and volatility that you just need to kind of take a step back and wait for things to either blow off, like something like NVAX or AMD or, whatever the case may be. If you try to figure out, and time that reversal, markets can be thin both directions right now. So you don't want to get in that situation. You don't want to try to find the top. You don't want to try to find the bottom, but take the meat in between and don't overhold. We've talked about that on small caps. The biggest issue that I've been having is just trying to let a good trade work, right? Get on the right side, have a good average, everything's working perfectly. And, it flushes out and you either cover or you don't, right? And if you cover some, great. But then there's not really much liquidity and it just slowly grinds the other way. And it's annoying. And I kind of, gave that frustration in my daily scan. I was saying, this is what I'm doing wrong in this current market. I'm up nicely on all these trades, but I'm only capturing either 25% of it or by the end of the day, 0%, right? Turning it either into a flat trade or a loser, just because liquidity isn't there. And I should have used that liquidity, flush for my exit. So, that's still been the same, IMUX and LASE and IMRN. So I'm not going to repeat myself. You guys can go back on the other 2-3 scans that we've been talking about, that exact thing and the changes that I'm making. We talk about liquidation trades a lot. If you go back to MEGL on Sunday video, I talked about, that sort of moment where, I just had like this mild panic and I only had like 1,000 shares, but it was this moment of what if this never comes back? What if this goes circuit to circuit to circuit, right? And if it's 1,000 shares and it goes to 200, 300, 500, or in some cases, it was indicating 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, and 900 or something like that. What if? You never really know. And so from that point forward, I had mentioned that, number one, these liquidation trades are getting extremely crowded. Everybody is getting hit up on Telegram and WhatsApp now. Everybody knows, what's going on. Everyone has seen everybody making huge money on these trades. And at some point, it's going to catch up, right? That was the discussion on MEGL. And then 2 weeks later, HKD happened, right? And then a couple weeks later, AXTG or whatever it was happened, right? So these things are happening all the time now. And the more obvious it is, the more emotion, the more aggressiveness that these trades are going to have. And so top was your standard liquidation type trade where, a lot of people back in the day, you could just slam into it and it would work out. It had 2 flushes that got caught on Friday. And I think that since it was a little bit more slow paced, less volume than something like ILAG, it maybe was more obvious to people that, hey, you know what? It should have died right there, and it didn't. And then it ramped up, and then it did it again, came down, ramped up, and started to hold. Then it kind of blew out towards the 29 level. Started to come back in, retested, it failed. And at that point, that's when I started to get really interested. I had dabbled in a couple times. I had started in and stopped out, and then I started in again. And then the failed follow through momentum happened, and I add, and that's still not 100% confirmation. That's still not something. I had borrowed a bunch of shares, and I used about maybe I want to say 1/4 of what I had borrowed or less. by the time it was, down into circuit halts, right? So I had only put on maybe 10% position, then stopped out, put on maybe 10%, then it started to come down, went to like 20, 25% position. And then it went circuit halt, circuit halt, circuit halt. And, I covered because, if the selling stops and the covers come in, then it's going to go right back up on air. We've seen that happen a bunch of times. So the same thing sort of happened twice on top as it did with ILAG. Just the difference is that people got confidence based on the circuit halts, based on the volume, based on the the price range, and seeing all of these trades, LGHL and IMT and all these other ones. The difference is when it flushed down, there was massive, massive bids. There was huge volume exchanged. And then it went up into a circuit halt. And everybody's probably like, oh boy, this probably wasn't a good idea. And so that was the first warning sign. Since when do these things go into a circuit halt? Now, I know ILAG did the first time. I know OST did. I know, what else? OST, LYT, a bunch of other different names. All went into a circuit halt or almost a circuit halt and then, came in. The difference is now people are afraid of getting caught in the next one. So they literally bid for cover and it pushes that circuit level higher and higher and higher. And, the ones that really get hurt are the smaller accounts. Granted, there's going to be big accounts that get blown out too. But really the ones that get hurt are not, the guys with bigger accounts that, are positioned correctly. But it's the small guys or ladies that, get in there and they're thinking about risking $1 or $2. They miss the cover and then it's $6, $7, $8, blows them out. Down per share, $6, $7, $8, whatever. And so this ILAG reminded me back when I lost on Kodak, and we went over that. We went over AMC loss. We went over the other 200K loss that I did a YouTube video about. I always try to cover my big losses on either Sunday video or, with some sort of, educational video of like, how I screwed up, how, I plan to fix that. And, so this reminds me a lot of Kodak. I see a lot of people having similar, account destruction as, I did with Kodak. But I think that this is going to be a defining trade for a lot of people, and whether you bounce back or not is really going to be up to you. I would suggest watching that 200K loss video because it's more about the aftermath. What do you do after, right? And maybe you have a great trade tomorrow, Monday. But in your head, it's not good enough. It's not good enough because it's not, however much you lost on Friday. But make sure you take a step back. You are not trying to make back your Friday loss on Monday. You've got to think about, and Cam used to tell me this all the time, Cam from IU, and I'd always tell him, no, you're wrong, but time fixes everything. And if you're going to go at it and you're going to try to make it all back on Monday, you're going to start to go backwards, right? So think about the end of the year. Think about December. Think about January 15th, February 15th, whatever. Pick a date. And you're going to work towards that. And then you're going to have more realistic expectations than, man, I just got to get some back on Monday. Oh, all right. I'm up a lot. Maybe this one keeps going and it's going to take care of my loss. And then what happens? All the way back. Because you're holding to get back what you lost on Friday, when any other day, any other trade, any other, moment, you'd be locking in. So make sure that when you have a good trade, you're not just holding to hold to fix Friday. Because I know that that's what everybody does, and everybody goes back to doing that, which is the worst thing you can do. Go back to what you were doing when it was working. It was one trade, one outlier situation. And, the markets that take also give, right? So there's going to be a lot of action. There's going to be a lot of people that think that they're going to get into the next ILAG. We're going to go up, have a circuit halt, and it's going to be an amazing short sell opportunity. Nobody's going to want to take it, though, because they're all scared. But the markets that take also give. So, this week I expect to be really good. I expect to see it a lot less crowded, right? And ILAG was just one of those situations where everybody was doing the same thing, ignored all the information that you knew. You know, all week we talk about 420, and you can look at this video and you can say, oh, it's just I told you so in hindsight and, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's not what this is about. It's about understanding what would make this a good trade and what didn't make it a good trade. And if everyone you know is short and it's not breaking down, it's holding that prior support, what happens when it starts to go the other way, right? So, you know, again, I didn't trade it perfectly. I covered the majority into that 420 area, the 420 line. But then I started to put a few back on. I had to stop out, and it was not a trade. You know, I wish I did actually get a little bit more aggressive towards the top, but, you know, what are you going to do? It's one of those situations where it's not a high probability trade, and with these circuit halts, it's just not worth it at times, right? You either need to be proven right, like something like top, or just stay away. And, you know, this was... Again, like I said, it's going to be a defining moment for a lot of people in their career. But focus on time. Don't pick tomorrow. Don't pick next week. Pick December. Pick January, February, March, whatever you want to do, and just work towards that. You have to change your mindset. Otherwise, you will slowly but surely, you know, start to fade away. That's the best piece of advice that I can give on a situation like this, you know, after losing on Kodak and AMC and all these types of situations. It will help you in the future. You know, I probably avoided this trade you know, I probably would have been in the same camp as many had all these warning signs not been there. And, you know, just like we've talked about every single Sunday scan, that, you know, people continue to scale up and want to nail these with more and more and more size. And, you know, the same thing that I said on many of the videos, I don't do that. I'm not going to continually get bigger and bigger and bigger, because at some point it's going to catch up. I'm going to be happy that I didn't size up. And it may not matter most of the time that I warn. Maybe like, all right, yeah, it's just another warning and, you know, it doesn't matter. But it will. The point is it will matter. So just be super, super cautious moving forward. And the other thing too is I think, you know, a lot of people will chalk this up as the liquidity was terrible, the circuit halts, it was impossible to cover. I get that. But if that's your takeaway, then you're never going to get to the root of the issue. And the root of the issue is, one, it was a crowded trade. Everybody's doing the same thing, right? Two, you had 20, 30, 40 minutes of sideways action of not breaking that 420. And I'm sure somebody will be like, well, it hit 410. Yes, it did. But as you guys know, failed follow through momentum, a confirmation of a trend break is when it continually pushes up against that 420 level and continues to fail, right? And breaks down. It never did that. And you had 30 to 45 minutes or so, 20, 30, 45 minutes, somewhere around there, to see that, this thing's a little bit different. I don't know how I feel about it. And the third thing, auto stop. Yeah, sure. Okay. Liquidity this and liquidity that, circuit halt this, circuit halt that. You know, as well as I do, that when it goes in that circuit halt, you know, you're like, let me see if it's going to actually just do a fake circuit halt or come back down. Or, you know, it starts to go and you're like, let me just kind of see what it does. Even on the next open, that moment where you're like, let's see if it comes back down. There's time. There is time. And the problem is that the time that it takes us to think about, okay, do I want to stop out here or, oh crap, another circuit halt, right? You missed that opportunity. And so when you have your account automated to just blow you out in that situation, there is no, let's see what happens. You're already out. You're out. Sure, there could be some slippage, but there's not going to be that much slippage, right? That much slippage comes from you trying to handle it. And even if you didn't, you know, black out or you know, panic and just kind of freeze up, which I'm sure a lot of people did, it's still those couple seconds that you are trying to determine whether or not you should cover it or not. It's too late because then the bids come in, it's into the next circuit halt. So I always, go back to those three things. Number 4, sizing up. I never continually scale on a trade unless I'm on the right side of the trade. It's broken under support. You don't want to anticipate something to happen, especially when everybody else is doing it. And just the last one is just the what if. What if, right? What if it didn't stop at 11 or 12, right? You can be upset. I saw some people cover at 11 and 12, and it is what it is, and it always sucks when that's the number, and then it comes back down to 6 or 4 or whatever. But what if? What if it didn't stop there? What if it went to 15 or 20 or 30, right? You never know. So never be upset. I know it's annoying, and I know it's frustrating to see a stop out and then it comes, back down, but you could have also done that much lower. And so that's the cold hard truth, and it sucks, and I know it, but I hope that, some of you folks that did, overstay and kind of let risk management kind of go out the window, just know that, every single great trader I know had one of these moments, including myself. And then you start to really zone in on risk management. You never know what you had until it's gone. You only have to get rich once. The hardest part is staying rich, right? And the biggest thing you want to do from this point forward is not blow the rest. Don't try to get back. Don't try to fix it. Go back to what you were doing best. Business as usual. And I understand a lot of people probably, maybe you're out of the game, or maybe you are very near pattern day trade rule, or whatever the case may be. But this is the moment where, you finalize, your trading strategy, your risk management, and everything that's going to make you better. You're sealing those cracks in your foundation. You had holes in your foundation. You just didn't know it. And, sometimes until this situation happens, you don't realize it. So anyway, solutions for all of that. That's why I continually, try to wire out anytime I have a hot run. I know that I'm not good at managing a huge portfolio. At some point, I love the buying power. I use it. I take more aggressive positions. And I personally see my trading start to get very choppy if I have too much buying power. I think that a lot of people made a lot of money in COVID and after, and never really were tested with their risk management. So a lot of times you can see a lot of that money go away very quickly. One thing I saw a couple of people with multiple accounts. I never try to, I try not to take the same, in this, I will trade the same trade in many accounts for sure. But I never try, if it's a situation, a short squeeze type situation, a high risk type trade, I don't like to put it all in the same accounts. Different accounts. That way, there's a little bit of protection there that, you're not just putting yourself all in an account, and in the event that the what if happens, you've got no money left to trade. So I always like to wire out, wire across, right? So open another broker, whatever. And then that way it allows you to have, you're kind of self-insulated instead of, just having this one account that, what if it didn't stop at 12? What if you didn't fill there, right? And it went to 20 and 30 and that was all your money. So again, max stop, and the biggest thing that we talk about all the time is let it prove. You don't have to anticipate in this market. I know it sucks. I know a lot of you guys got hurt. But this is why all of these things that we talk about every single week matter. And they don't matter until they matter. And it finally mattered on Friday. So anyway, let's get back into regular scheduled scan, and we'll go over stuff for the week ahead. All right, so first and foremost, as always, I'm not a financial advisor. These are not buy or sell recommendations. This is for educational and informational purposes only. If you're not okay with that, shut the video off. If you're okay with that, then great. You're here to learn what I look for in particular trades that would make me take the trade. Kind of understanding the risk reward and what, in my eyes, makes that a good trade. So IMUX has been a nice trader, and if you've been respecting the prior levels of, support and resistance, it's been great. If you just drew, a couple lines even on Friday, you've got some great opportunities. And each of the blow-offs towards the top end of the channel, and in this case, 1050 was the level that I gave the room, and then 990s. But if you take advantage of the exhaustion over it, comes back down, you take advantage of the flush under it, probably did okay. I'd be lying if I told you that this wasn't nice at the end of the day. This was, I'm kind of getting in there, and I had a good trade. I traded it in the morning, flushed out, got some good covers, did it again, got some good covers, and then here we are towards the end of the day, and I'm like, man, once again, this is, the 900th time I've done that this week, where, I've done a lot of work, but here we are, I've still got a position left, and, fortunately, it came in. Otherwise, it would have been, another example of a minimized trade on something that I've been preaching about, but still having a hard time taking a full hold on. So anyway, nice pullback there. I'd love to see it kind of push back up towards VWAP, ideally 10, 10, 20s, and then I wouldn't be surprised to see it fade off. This is a situation where, everybody's it was super easy to borrow. Everybody's kind of doing the same thing, just like Beat and FNGR and all these other names, they're all, just having fun toying with shorts. And then once you're done, they fade, right? But they're no longer on your radar because you're exhausted. So set price alerts, forget about it, look left, and when they start to test those levels and break down when everybody else is done watching them, that's when the opportunities come. AMD, really nice opportunity off the open with the market type trade. Clean versus VWAP, something that I like to join. I traded a few times. I probably made 30 cents, so nothing to shout about. I wish I focused a little bit more on the market related names, but my focus on Friday was iMuck, iLag, Top, and a few others. So higher the better, reactive trade with the market. Again, I'm not just trying to, put ideas out there and not really have too much of a game plan, but we're in a market where we're going to either open up 500, down 500, and there's no point. It's what trading vehicles do you want to take? NEO, LI, XPEV, AMD, Apple, whatever it is, whatever fits your price range, that's what you need to focus on, because that's what's going to make you, the money while we are, kind of in this consolidation phase. I also think a lot of people are trying to time the market. We're not going anywhere, in my opinion, and I've said this many times, 12 to 18, actually 18 to 24 months. As far as even maybe finding a bottom, whether or not we're sideways for a long time. But you got to think about it. Think about how long these cycles last. We're not just going to go right back up. You're talking probably 10 years to even think about, heading back up towards any, crazy levels or something like that. This cycle needs time to work out all this crazy money that's come, all these people that have just made too much money. There's a lot to absorb here. And it doesn't just happen, overnight or in 1 month pullback and then we're good, we're going to go back up. Yeah, sure, it's happened like that for 10 years, but it finally all came to a head, and now we're going to have to unlearn everything that you learned. And so just be cautious thinking, I missed it, I got a position on this or that. Like, we might not be anywhere yet. We might still have a long way to go. Nobody wants to work, and we still got a lot of issues to work through. And I don't think that thinking about market timing and all that kind of stuff is really something that you should be worrying about right now. APTN, beautiful unwinder. This was a nice short fader in the room on Friday. I just put some on. This is kind of the type that I like to put on. Maybe not a full size, but enough where you don't have to watch every single tick, and you just kind of babysit on the side. Then at the end of the day, it's a nice opportunity. So that worked out well. I'd be looking for the same thing again. Any good pops towards, this level right over here. 240s, 250s ideally would be a great exhaustion zone. Again, this is a good example of, once everybody kind of forgets it, gives up. We had a big candle on Thursday where it kind of just pushed everybody out right over here, and then it sat back. So then when we come back, you can kind of see it was pretty much having trouble at the 270 range. We had that exhaustion move, came back to 270s, pushes against 270s and fails, right? So that's sort of that confirmation of that prior level and then fades off. Top was fantastic. Top is exactly what you want in a liquidation trade. We knew that this was going to be one. It was just a matter of time. It was getting front run, and here you go. You see off the 10 a.m. level, you've got some volume. It's alerted, Telegram, WhatsApp, hey, it's our new big pick, and, everybody gets, excited to short it. So, even if you did chase it down here, right? Well, how long did you have sideways to make the right decision if you were sized up, right? So this is an example of just like ILAG where, okay, typically a liquidation trade would pull back and stay heavy, right? And we know that we need to see many millions of volume, right? For me, anything sub 1 million, you want to assume that it's going to come right back up. And, obviously there wasn't a million shares traded yet. So you've got from 9:57 basically to 10:35. You almost have, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of, sideways action where you are literally ignoring the fact that this thing is holding. And if it was going to die, it should have died. And so if you're over anything beyond a starter, then, that is your first mistake. Then we had a nice little exhaustion move, and then it flushed out again, and we go into that same holding pattern. And you can start to see now that it puts in a top, right? Zoom out here. So, puts in a top. People get a little excited, but this flush starts to catch again. And once again, guess what? We're heading higher. Then as it breaks out through that level, squeezes everybody out that was oversized, that was ignoring the trend the entire time. Very difficult trade. So the only edge is really kind of dabbling in or ignoring it in full. So like I said, I was not in, unfortunately, I wish I was, but there's a reason why I wasn't. But I was able to get some good ads, and got some good covers. And that was a great trade. But just like we talked about in the room, there was no confirmation over here until we start to have the failed follow through momentum right over here. Is still, you're not sure if it's just going to be one candle and comes back. So we start to come back, and then we start to have the exhaustion candles that confirm. And that's really the key spot for me to see, all right, confirmation, liquidation continues. And the reason for that is because you've got all these shorts that flushes down, everybody covers. So now all the timid shorts are gone. The ones that don't are starting to cover. The ones that bought are not going to sell. They're down 50% until there's a reason to sell. And then you start to see it getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And then obviously the unwind happens. So this is the example. Same thing with ILAG, with the 420s that we're talking about. You want to assume that it's going to hold until it proves under key levels that it is the liquidation day. The other thing with ILAG is we've never seen that many bids before. Bid, offer, bid, offer, bid, offer. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of things that were happening that it just didn't feel right. And I guarantee that everybody that was short that saw them, felt that, knew that, but wanted to get a piece or was sized up and said, you know what, I'm not going to resize. If it flushes down and goes to a circuit halt, I'm not going to get the same size, so I'm just going to leave it on. And because of that, they ignored all the warning signs, and then it ended up, going crazy. So ILAG, same deal. And again, you can see this action over here where if it was a liquidation type trade, it should be staying heavy and fading off. They went into a circuit. Everybody gets excited because, oh, phew, good thing, right? So we had a circuit back up over here, I think, and then it came back down. So everybody's like, all right, that's fine. Big circuit, made it through. I'm gonna wait. Then over here, it happens again, and they're like, oh man, this is not good. I probably have too many. And then bam, get convinced like everything's good. Circuit's down, everything's, awesome. should stay heavy, right? On top, it stayed heavy. On top, after it came in, they went circuit halt, open lower, circuit halt, open lower, right? On ILAG, they supported it. And most importantly, on ILAG, the 420s level that we've been talking about all week, and we talked about in the room. And again, it's not I told you so. I know a lot of people got hurt, and it wasn't, anything that was easy. And, I didn't trade it perfectly, but I definitely didn't, get blown out. 420 was the level all week that they supported, and they supported it right there too. So that is the spot where you want to see break down, and that's exactly, if it was going to go to 2, 420 would have to peak first, right? Can't think about 2 at, 5, 6, 7 that it has to go there until 420 breaks down. Last couple, Beat and Peggy, and BHVN. All kind of similar situations where, they had nice rebounds, and now they are starting to fail to follow through. So I'd be watching all pops, any 30 to 50 cent type moves, and then look for pressure, and I'd like to join those. Only other two that I have is AGFY on continuation side of things. This one, unfortunately, I saw the trap happen. It was this day over here, and it was this day over here. 500K bid gets filled, and then they soak another 500K, and then they, were still bidding for it later on in the day. Dips got soaked, and away things went. And, this is normally something that I would probably take long, but I wasn't there for it. It, is what it is. I'm not going to get them all. But watch dips. If it starts to trap 130, 140s, we could go into circuits. Who knows? It could go 160, 170, twos. But be cautious of a fast move down. If they start to soak it, I think that we could start to see some sort of cover on T+2. SOUN, steady. This was a nice little trend join on Friday. Chart has been beat. Might start to walk up. If it hits a wall and it starts to fade off, I'm not looking to marry it. But so far, so good. I'd watch if it starts to kind of base over 4. We've had a nice little run around this thing in the past. And it has a history of some of the promotional type of moves. So anyway, that's it. The big stories ILAG. Nothing that was easy. It's nothing that I just want people to look back and understand what warning signs were there. And if you're going to be trading these and everybody's doing the same thing, you need to be one step ahead. If these things do not go down and stay heavy, and everybody's doing the same thing, then, where does that leave you? So this is why, like in the room, I basically post liquid, NASDAQ type names, but these types of names, I'm not going to post those entries just because, what if? What if everybody's doing the same thing and, it goes the opposite way? It's just not worth it. And for somebody that doesn't understand, what to look for, and you end up taking that trade just blind because, you want to feel like, you're part of something, then, where does that leave you? Where does that leave your account? So, again, dangerous trades. Obviously, they're super rewarding when they do fail, but just like top, don't worry about getting the top at all. Wait for things to fail, and you can see how much. There was $10 per share after 15 confirmed. $10 a share. After $15 confirmed. So, again, top was great. Didn't go crazy size because, as I've expressed in the last 2-3 months of continual videos of warnings about these, I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in having a career-ending trade on these types of, opportunities. And you got to have, you got to be on your best behavior on them if you're going to trade them. But don't ever underestimate the max stop, because before you have a chance to think about what you should do, you'll already be out. Yes, you're going to be frustrated sometimes that, maybe that was top and maybe you would have made the money, but it's times like Friday, it's times like, Kodak and AMC and all those types of situations for me that you're going to be happy that you had it. And remember, your max stop should just be, a level that's maybe 2 or 3 days away to kind of replace, or it's just above, what your typical risk would be. If it's 10 grand, maybe it's 13K. If it's $1,000, maybe it's 1,300. If it's 100K, maybe it's 130K. But that way it's gives you that little buffer. But when you break all your rules and you're 30% above your max stop anyway, your mental max stop, at least you don't have to think about it and you're already out. So anyway, chin up for those people that did get beat. I've reached out to a lot of you guys, and so I do hope that you'll battle back and have the proper headspace. If that was you, it sucks, but every single great trader that I know has had that day. So know that, and it's what you do with it from here that's going to count.